Welcome to the show today, Green Spring. It is Thursday, February 16th. Go figure, Diane is 2 days late with the song about love. Couldn't help myself. So I'm sitting here with Ron Taylor, our finance director. This is your second time on the show, Ron?
Yes, it is.
Second time by yourself.
Correct.
I think, yeah, you were here. Well, great. So how you doing? You found your way around the campus yet?
I'm still getting lost every once in a while, but at least I know how to look at the signs, so things are well.
Yes, it's a little difficult, especially when you're trying to get around inside when the floor number changes on you. And you're like, but I didn't even use an elevator. It's like the Twilight Zone.
True.
Yeah. So how are we doing? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Things are going great. You know, one, my transition here to Green Spring has been simply awesome. The staff members as well as the residents have just been great to deal with.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed the going on 4 months of being here and looking forward to being here a lot longer.
So what's going on in the finance department? How are we looking?
Yeah, things are going very well. You know, everyone is always questioning what's happening with the investments, with the money that Green Spring or Erickson has been in charge with from the residents, and things are going very well from the standpoint of how we're investing the dollars that we've been trusted with. We have really 3 tiers of our investment. Tier 1 really looks at our liquid cash, the money that we have to operate more of the day-to-day activities. Tier 2, where our largest pot of money is invested, is a 2 to 3 year, or truly 2 to 4 year investment cycle, where we really don't touch it during that time period, but it's available to us if we need it. Our longer tier, which is tier 3, are investments that are greater than 5 years. And in those instances, we really look at that as really long-term investments that are really here for the life of Green Spring, so that we're not just here for our current residents and maybe not even our second generation of residents, but really what's happening for those residents after that.
Okay. What agencies do we use for these cash reserves that you're talking about?
Most of that is really invested in mutual funds by our corporate offices. T. Rowe Price is one of our big investment firms, but there are also multiple others just based on where we can find the best rates. Really, we get reporting on it and we give some guidance, but most of that is driven by corporate.
Okay. So give me maybe residents are kind of wondering what you do in your office each day. Are you checking on these things or checking the stocks or? Like, I'm just kind of curious of how you tweak and drive some of these funds, the process of which you do that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think individuals look at the finance world and they think that we're really concerned with investments. And while we are, the majority of our activities are really how do we manage the day-to-day activities here at Green Spring. So, my staff, we are here looking at what's happening with invoicing. How do we address resident needs when they see a charge that they don't understand on their invoice? How do we really look at effects of the actual billing process? Because billing does come from corporate, and so residents come to us and we start doing research on their behalf. A lot of our activities also go around how do we help each of the departments manage their money. So looking at general services, looking at dining services, how do we help them look at their budget, look at their actuals in comparison to budget, and really identify where there are variances and how do we fix that? Because variances are bad on both sides of the house. A negative variance means we've actually missed the budget, meaning that we've had expenses that are greater than what we thought we were going to have. But then also, if we have a positive variance, it really means that either we have not spent all the money that we had, and that may mean that we're not doing all that we say that we were going to do from a priority standpoint, or we really have a budget that is out of whack. It's really not in line with the types of things that we're doing. So my team's goal is how do we really ensure that we're spending money in a economical way as well as not overspending. The other side of what my group is going to look at is really the move out and the move in process. So we're constantly looking at individuals that are coming into the community. How do we help them get their files established? How do we ensure that their initial entrance deposit is received, it is invested correctly? And then as individuals move from independent living to Garden Ridge, how does that transition happen as well?
So if we ended up with, you called it a positive variance, that's when we have more money than left over. Is that almost like a surplus?
Correct.
Yeah. So what happens the next year if you don't use it up? You don't get as much money then the next year?
You know, it's interesting coming from an environment where we were a for-profit organization. That typically is the case.
That is the case.
But when a non-profit organization as we are, that's really not how we operate. If we can justify the need for our budget dollars, really that's what we're going to get.
So then I guess the surplus would just go into some other investment or get saved somehow. Yeah.
Correct. Now, I will tell you that in many instances, we will have to answer, why do you have that variance?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a situation where either Chandra or myself have to explain that to our corporate partners up in Baltimore. So really our goal is really to manage to the budget as much as possible.
Down to the cent, so we're spending everything we're given.
Try
Well,
to.
it shouldn't be too hard with all the projects I hear about planned for the next 10 years on campus. You know, there's talk of the Garden Ridge thing starting up soon, and I'm sure that's part of your job to figure out, you know, how that's all going to get paid for. But yeah, thanks for explaining to me, well, you know, kind of your daily basis, what you do. I had this vision of you in your office like a Wall Street banker, like, you know, frazzled hair, your tie's undone. You're
Looking
like,
at the
"No,
tickers
sell
all the
those
time.
stocks, throwing stuff, you know, no, get out of those bonds. You know. But yeah, sure, you have a lot of other things to do that are just based right here at Green Spring. Okay, so is there any other information that we should know about what's going on with the finances, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
A couple of things. You know, as we are ending, you know, the 2016 year, many of our residents are beginning to look at their taxes for that year.
Yeah.
And they're knocking on our doors. So can we get some tax information? We're in the process of actually pulling documentations that we'll actually make available to all of our residents, whether they're in independent living, assisted living, or skilled. And so documentation of how they can receive those tax documents will be pushed out very shortly.
Okay.
Additionally, we are coming up with our last move-out form, which will be this Saturday the 25th at 2 o'clock. And it's really intended for our residents and their families to understand if they are transitioning out of Green Spring, either from moving away from the community as a whole, or if there's an instance of a death, what do they need to do to be prepared for that situation? So it's actually been a great forum.
Yeah, and I've been to a few of those already, and those are always packed houses.
They are.
It's important information.
They are. We also have coming up during the second quarter this year a permanent transfer to Garden Ridge forum, so individuals understand as their overall care needs increase, how do they move from independent living into Garden Ridge. So there'll be forums that will happen in April for that. And one other thing I also always want to try to help individuals understand, when they get their invoice, a lot of individuals, oh, I need a credit for X, I need a credit for Y, and they call the finance department. Yeah. We actually don't own that process. So if an individual has a meal that they feel that they didn't actually eat, or they need a credit for just services that were rendered, that needs to be taken back to where that charge incurred. So if it's a meal, they go to dining service. If it's related to something in the fitness center, they need to go back and see Brad and his team. We actually don't own that process. We can direct them, but since we don't have receipts, we don't have information related to that, they do have to go back to where that charge was incurred, and they can actually initiate that credit. So I always want to try to make sure folks understand that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if they get charged for something at the cafe, they call you to take it off, and you just say, oh, no, just talk to the people upstairs in the cafe.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
All right, coming down to the last few minutes, any final words of encouragement for our residents or anything? Any last updates?
One of the things I would say is, we try to make sure that we're here for support at all times. Our office hours are 9 to 5. We definitely want to make sure that any needs that arise, they can come to us at any point in time. So we just want to be here for everyone's support.
Cool. One other thing I wanted to ask you when you're talking about the moving out forum was, that's obviously, there's a lot going on in a resident's life where they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their money. Are you involved in advising residents at all about their finances, or is that left completely to social work or philanthropy?
Well, from an advisement of how to identify beneficiaries and whatnot, we actually do not provide any counsel there. We always ask individuals to talk to their family members, talk to individuals they trust, talk to their lawyers, but we can't be in a position of providing guidance there.
Okay, cool. All right, Ron, well, thank you for coming on. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
You can go get your second cup of coffee now and head back to your office. I don't know if you drink 2 cups of coffee.
Try not to, then I'm wired the rest of the day.
Okay.
But
You're wired the rest
Andrew,
of the
thank you very much.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Okay, Green Spring, we'll be back with the Fairfax County Police, hear about some safety tips. But first, we're going to see a roll-in from our dear friend Al Nielsen, who passed away yesterday morning. Many of you remember Al Nielsen. He ran camera in here for many years when I started as an intern up until just a few years ago. He always used to do many videos for us, and this was one of his videos he did a few years ago at the craft displays that pop up around campus from time to time. So please enjoy this, and we'll be back with the police.